The one and only Mac Engel from the Fort Worth Star-Telegram, our own Mike Leslie. It's going to be fun, freewheeling, and here we go. And let's get started with the one and only Jason Kidd. Just lighting it up on a Saturday night. Wow. Mac, when you saw what Coach said, what was your first reaction?
This is not the first time he's kind of fired back at the media that has dared criticize him in the past for any number of decisions. I got to tell you, the idea of putting the ball in Cooper Flagg's hands to be a point guard, I don't hate it. This entire season is gone. Anything that they do in terms of wins and losses, that's gravy. This entire season is entirely about Cooper Flagg's development. So whatever they need to do to make him an even better player for next season, I'm all in favor of it. And if that means they have to eat their vegetables and take some turnovers and some bad decisions to get him acclimated to being a primary ball handler or even a secondary ball handler, I'm all for it. So while I know sometimes this has some ugly moments to it, if it's going to make him a better player for next season, go forth.
And listen, we've already seen the improvement from Cooper Flagg with some of the decision making, even with his handles, right? Even with some basic skills in an NBA environment, playing at that speed and against that competition. We've already seen some of the improvement, and so my thought process has evolved a little bit, especially because of the record and because you don't have a healthy Anthony Davis, and we're not sure when Kyrie's coming back and all that stuff. You got to give the kid all he can take and even more to put as much pressure on him as you can to let him grow. And here's the thing. Unlike a lot of NBA players, it is obvious to me that Cooper Flagg does not mind hard coaching. He doesn't mind. You could just tell by looking at Mom watch the game that this kid has been coached thoroughly his entire life. His mom, absolutely into it. Dad played as well. So I think you need to use all of those things that are in your arsenal to try and pull the best out of him as soon as you can. Mike, what's your take?
I think, first of all, I'm with Mac. I don't personally have a problem with the idea of playing Cooper at the point guard position. And I think that dovetails nicely with the fact that I'm not sure Jason Kidd directed his vitriol at the right people. If you go back and listen to the press conference, the question that was asked to him, one, in an extremely polite way, not about anything that individual reporter had written or said, but about national reporters and pundits talking about this talking point. So he's kind of going off and ripping into a bunch of people in the room that are going, I didn't write that. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
And, exactly. And he was kind of shrugging like, this ain't me, bro. And then I think there's also an element here where regardless of who it was directed at and whether it landed at the feet of the proper people, where his just kind of callous disregard for anybody who didn't play the game at the level that he did is something that we've seen and heard from players and coaches at various times through history. And it's ridiculous. The idea that you can't have an opinion or you can't have an opinion that is valued unless you played the game like Jason Kidd did is bollocks. And we've continually gone down this path for no reason whatsoever. Why I went down an English path just now, I don't know. And Andrew, your reaction is warranted. I'm not sure why that was the word that came into my mind in the moment.
Well.
But what are we doing? Like this idea that nobody can have an opinion unless you played the game the way that Jason Kidd did is ridiculous.
I think to kind of echo that point, the voice that stuck out the most to me about criticism was, night one, Charles Barkley at halftime saying you should not be putting the ball in this kid's hands this early. And I think, unfortunately, a lot of people have looked at Flagg and his development this season and still have that lasting memory from that first game and use it to kind of color what's really transpired over the last 3 weeks, which has been a renaissance of his game. And I think that's unfair to him. I think it's unfair to Kidd, but at the same time, I don't fault Kidd for trying to balk at that, because I do think a lot of Flagg's success has come from that early element of trying to understand where the game flow is, and now he better understands how he fits into it, Joe.
Well, I think the other thing about this entire issue and this scene that we were given was Jason was just completely teed off at the refs, right? He called them by name. He probably knew the fine was coming. I don't know if he just said, you know what? I'm just going to get it all off my chest Right now, I'm tired of it because that wasn't directed at the people in the room. It was directed at some national pundits, and it was kind of one of those "you people" kind of rants, right? Which are never a good thing, mind you, right? So I think that was a big part of it. I suspect that there's going to be an apology sometime soon because while Jason may feel that way, and he's expressed it before, I do think he is willing and understands the job that we have to do as journalists. I do. All right, so let's leave that there because I don't want to end this segment without talking about the great Mark Aguirre and how cool Thursday night was. Mac, I'm going to let you go first as the senior member, and I know you weren't around for all that, but still, your window into what Mark Aguirre meant to the Mavericks and vis-a-vis what that night meant to Mark Aguirre.
It was great to see. He was their first superstar player. And people forget, for good reason, that when we talk about great NBA players of the 80s, Larry Bird, Magic Johnson, Michael Jordan, those are obviously the first three, Isaiah Thomas. Mark Aguirre was just right below that group of players. And if you remember, there was a huge Sue commercial, the first of its kind. And Mark Aguirre was in that commercial with those players that I mentioned, along with Kevin McHale and some other ones. Mark Aguirre was that first guy. No disrespect to Rolando Blackman or some other, Roy Tarpley, unfortunately, who's off the court issues, he never escaped those. That was going to be such a great team. And Mark Aguirre was the face of that great team that pushed the Lakers to Game 7 of the Western Conference Finals, I believe in 86 or 87. And they were never the same again. The franchise was never the same again. But that era, the first era of great Mavericks basketball, Mark Aguirre was that guy. And to see him come back in the fold and to be welcomed by the franchise and to be a part of this again is great. It is. The fact that the Mavericks are making some effort with the fan base, with old Mavericks, to try to make up for the disaster that was this time a year ago when they traded Luka Doncic. And it's nice to see, it's neat to see his number hanging in the rafters where it belongs. That's a nice night. It really is. The part that concerns me, Joe, is that with a younger fan base or any fan base, anybody over to the age of, anybody born in 19 on, they probably don't know who Mark Aguirre is. And that's no disrespect to Mark. Sports fame is generational, and it's nice to see it happening, but it doesn't fix the bigger problems of this franchise, and that is the result on the court. Nonetheless, a great night for the Mavs and Mark Aguirre.
It's a great point because going into that night, I realized how many people just don't know of the greatness that Mark Aguirre had. And the other thing is, from a personal standpoint, Mark's been through a lot of health issues, and for him to get his flowers, and that's why it was part of the reason why it was so absolutely emotional, because he kind of stared some things in the face, and it brought a better reality to what he had done and what he had been through, and that's why it meant so much. Mike, what stood out to you?
What stood out to me was all the people that showed up for him because they knew what it was going to mean to him. The fact that Isaiah Thomas was there, the fact that so many people that had connections to him and the city of Chicago made the trip down to be a part of this. It was very clear just from who he invited or who somebody close to him expressed to them, hey, this would be cool if you come out for this. It was very, very important to Mark Aguirre. And I think the fact that it was important to Aguirre shows a lot about how far this relationship has come over the course of a long period of time, but it's nice that we're here now.
Isaiah Thomas said it. Those bad boys championships do not happen without Mark Aguirre. That was the line of the night.